This is the Death Row and Executions channel. Here is your host, Paco Rivera.
Welcome back to the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. This next story begins with three men who were friends: David Spears, Christopher Collings, and Nathan Mahurin, who also did farm work together around the regions of Stella, Missouri, where David Spears lived. David Spears and Christopher Collings had been friends for many years, and Collings even lived with the Spears family for several months, sleeping in the basement during the summer and fall months of the year 2007. But by October of that year, Christopher Collings had moved out and moved into a trailer home on his own family's farm in Wheaton, Missouri. On November 2nd of the year 2007, the three friends got together on a farm to do some farm work. Later that evening, after they were done, they stopped by a liquor store, and then the three of them went to David Spears' home in Stella to shoot pool and drink. At the home was Spears' wife, Colleen Spears, and her 9-year-old daughter, Rowan Ford, from a previous marriage. At the time, Rowan was in the 4th grade at Triway Elementary. She had been described as a very sweet and beloved little angel who was loved by her teachers and classmates, family and friends, and anybody who came into contact with her. Rowan mostly enjoyed riding her blue bicycle that she had just gotten recently, also drawing, reading books, and even helping out at her local church. During the time that David Spears' friend Christopher Collings was living in the home, Rowan had referred to him as Uncle Chris. By 8:30 that night, as the three men continued drinking and shooting pool, Rowan's mother, Colleen, left for work for an overnight shift and left her daughter in the care of her stepfather, David Spears, something she had done a million times before. About 9 o'clock the following morning, now November 3rd, 2007, Colleen arrives home from work and realizes that her daughter Rowan wasn't there. She asked her husband, David Spears, about it, and he told her that Rowan had left to spend the night with a friend, but he doesn't know which friend. Not long after, Colleen began making phone calls to all the homes that Rowan might have gone to, but everyone tells her that they have not seen Rowan. Colleen tells her husband, David Spears, that she is going to call 911, but he tells her that's not necessary. He insists that Rowan stayed with a friend and she will be back home soon. But Colleen's gut instinct as a mom kicked in, believing something was wrong, and eventually did call 911 anyway. An all-out search and investigation into the missing 9-year-old was now underway. Over the following days, the state police and even the FBI became involved, and all three men, David Spears, Christopher Collings, and Nathan Mahurin, as the last three persons known to have seen little Rowan, were questioned. Nathan Mahurin stated that the night before, the three men were all drinking and shooting pool at David Spears' house. When it started getting late, Christopher Collings asked him if he would give him a ride back to his trailer home a few minutes' drive away in the town of Wheaton. The homeowner, David Spears, decided to tag along, and all three men stopped to get more liquor from a liquor store and ended up back at Christopher Collings' trailer home, where they continued drinking and smoking marijuana. As far as Nathan Mahurin knows, the young girl, Rowan, had fallen asleep in her bedroom back at David Spears' home and was left there alone in the house. Nathan Mahurin stated that at some point he decided to call it a night. He left Collings' trailer home with David Spears. Mahurin mentioned that he was planning to take back roads to drop off David Spears at his home, saying he knows that route will take longer, but he was heavily intoxicated and didn't want to take a chance on getting stopped by police that were mostly patrolling the main roads. Nathan Mahurin stated that he dropped off David Spears at his house and then went home, arriving there about midnight. Colleen's husband, little Rowan's stepfather, David Spears, quickly became the number one suspect in the disappearance of Rowan Ford. Spears had known for 8 to 10 hours that the girl was missing from the home and never said anything to anybody. Spears had also insisted that Rowan spent the night with a friend, knowing full well that was not true. And when his wife Colleen wanted to call 911, he tried hard to prevent it. The Spears house and 2 vehicles used by David Spears were searched and examined forensically, but nothing of evidentiary value was found. Spears would later say that he was extremely drunk the night before and has no memory of anything. On November 4th, deputies spoke with Christopher Collings in the parking lot of a restaurant. Collings, who has children of his own not in his custody, gave the deputies the same story as Nathan Mahurin about their activities from the night before, only leaving out that they had also smoked marijuana. Possessing marijuana in Missouri at that time was still a crime. Collings said that he'd gone to sleep after David Spears and Nathan Mahurin left his trailer home. The chief of police at the Wheaton Police Department, a man named Clinton Clark, had known Christopher Collings since he was a little boy. Collings appeared to be quite fond of the chief while growing up and had even counted on Chief Clark for advice and support throughout the years. One day, Collings flagged down Clark, who was on patrol, and told him that he was very worried about Rowan Ford not being found. Collings said that he would like to help however he can. The chief would later inform FBI agents working on the case about his encounter with Christopher Collings. The chief said that Chris Collings was very jittery during their discussion and how it appeared to him that Collings knows a lot more about what happened to Rowan than he's letting on. FBI suggested that Chief Clark continue questioning Collings. On November 9th, 6 days after Rowan was reported missing, during an extensive search that had continued, Rowan Ford's body was found in a cave called Fox Cave in McDonald County near Powell, Missouri. Fox Cave is more of a sinkhole than a cave. It only has the name Fox Cave. The only thing that Rowan was wearing was one sock on her foot. Investigators, still suspecting the stepfather David Spears, now as the killer, but believing Christopher Collings knows what happened that night, brought Collings into the police station for questioning. Learning that the body was found, Christopher Collings broke down and cried and said that there is only one person that he will speak to, the Wheaton chief of police, Clinton Clark, and not at the police station, that he preferred a more private area. FBI agents agreed to allow the chief to drive Collings away, and they stopped at a bridge where they got out to talk. The chief would later say that the first thing Collings did was hold his hands out and told the chief that he might as well go ahead and put the handcuffs on him now. When the chief asked why, Collings said, "Because after what I'm about to tell you, you're going to put them on me anyway." Collings then proceeded to give a full account of what transpired on the night of November 2nd. He said that after the 3 men left Rowan alone in her house asleep, they went back to his trailer to continue drinking. And when Nathan Mahurin left with David Spears, and Nathan had told him that he was taking longer back roads so he doesn't get stopped for DUI, that he quickly got in his pickup truck and took the faster main road back to David Spears' house. Once there, Collings said that he went inside, picked up Rowan, and carried her back to his pickup truck, where he laid her in the rear bed of the truck. Collings said Rowan had remained asleep the entire time. He then took Rowan back to his trailer home, where he proceeded to brutalize her, and later strangled her to death because she had seen his face and can now identify him. Collings said that he later drove the body to the Fox Cave sinkhole and left her in there. And afterward, he proceeded to burn all the evidence: bed sheets, the rope he used to strangle Rowan, and some of the bloody clothes that he was wearing that night, and anything else that he thought might implicate him.
We, the jury, having found the defendant Christopher Collings guilty of murder in the first degree of Rowan Ford, now assess and declare the punishment of death.
Now, here's where things get really weird. Police had always suspected that David Spears was also involved. His actions, or lack of taking any action, was highly suspicious. So David Spears was taken back to the station and questioned again. And this time, he confessed. Spears said that he had also participated in brutalizing Rowan and then helped Christopher Collings dispose of the body using one of his vehicles, specifically one that he, David Spears, had borrowed from his mother. So he was also arrested and charged with murder. Well, when Christopher Collings, who now appears to be all upfront and honest about what happened and was crying his eyes out while offering a complete confession, was totally baffled by Spears' confession. He said that he doesn't know what that man is talking about, that what Spears said never happened. Collings said David Spears was never there. A search of the property where Christopher Collings lived in a trailer and vehicles were searched. Crime technicians were able to find remnants of evidence of the crime in a fire pit and hair fiber in the pickup truck that Collings said he had used to transport the body. Hair identified as belonging to Rowan Ford. Investigators were never able to link physical evidence to the stepfather who confessed, David Spears. As a result, prosecutors can't prove a case against Spears, and the murder charges were dropped. Also, because of the conflicting confessions, prosecutors thought it might hinder their case against Christopher Collings, who they knew for certain was involved in the murder. David Spears ended up pleading guilty to child endangerment for leaving a young child home alone and was released from prison after serving a few years. One thing I would like to clear up: several reports on the web state that David Spears had led authorities to Fox Cave where Rowan's body was located, but that is not true. The actual case files indicate that Rowan's body was found by a sheriff's deputy. Spears had nothing to do with that. He didn't even confess, and whether or not it's a false confession is not clear. He didn't even confess until after Rowan's body was found. Now, I have a question for all of you out there. Do you think that David Spears was directly involved in the actual crime that was committed? Did he participate alongside Christopher Collings? Personally, it seems plausible to me that David Spears might not have been involved with the brutalization, murder, and disposal of the body, but he did know all along, right from the start, exactly what happened to Rowan that night. And as crazy as this seems, he didn't want his friend for many years, Christopher Collings, to go down alone for it. Or maybe David Spears had joined Collings in committing the crime. Once again, I'd like to read your thoughts on that in the comments. On November 27th, 2007, that same month that her daughter was killed, Colleen Spears filed for divorce from her husband, David Spears. 5 years after the crime, in the year 2012, Collings was found guilty and sentenced to death for taking from this world a sweet and precious little angel named Rowan Ford, a girl who had her whole life ahead of her.
I believe in God, and I believe what the Bible says, an eye for an eye. I also believe that those 12 people that had to make that decision, I'm sure, was probably one of the hardest decisions that they ever had to make. I hate no man on this earth, and that includes Chris Collins. I don't hate Chris. I hate what Chris done. You know, I'm a father. I have 2 daughters. I have 2 lovely granddaughters, and I have 1 brand new lovely great-granddaughter. I can't look at my children without thinking of Rowan. she's a part of us and always will be.
Please remember to subscribe for more of these death row and upcoming execution stories. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Take care and